Randy is from New York City, and Randy spent 8 years literally living in the streets there. He withdrew from society. In fact, there was a period in which Randy didn't utter a word for 7 whole months. Can you imagine that? One of the things that kept Randy going was his artwork, which we're going to get into in a minute. But first, I think we should go back and tell us a bit about the story that led you. What led you to just leave it all and go live on the streets for 8 years?
Well, for me, living on the street was, I couldn't handle the stress and the emotional drama in my life. Just like people have problems balancing their budget.
Yes.
I sort of had problems balancing my emotional budget, you know. And I just went off, decided to leave everything. And the more I left, the more that left me, and it just snowballed and snowballed into 8 grueling years that now I would not have changed for all the tea in China.
Because it must have been a fascinating experience. Were you married, Randy?
I was married once. That was part of the emotional depletion that I had, losing my wife. The only connection that I thought I had to humanity, you know, another human being. Really
Did she leave you?
Yes, she did.
And then you just went out and left everything you own and lived on the streets and didn't speak for 7 months.
Well, there was a time, after about 4 years, I didn't speak for about 7 months because I didn't want anyone to know how vulnerable I was. Silence was my cloak. Some street people use insanity, some use violence, some use ignorance, some sell their dignity. Silence was sort of my cloak, you know, and it allowed me to wake up the next day without like jumping off a bridge or jumping in front of a train, which I thought of quite a few times. And by the grace of God, the new kind of homeless person that is coming, someone who was in mainstream all of their lives, who by circumstance are now homeless, and the violence that was visited upon them, and the insanity, they lose their minds like in a month in the streets. They just go stark raving mad. I could not deal with it. And God graced me with the knowledge that I do have a choice. I could not change the people that hurt me or the people that I hurt, but I could change myself. And from that day, a day at a time, I began to change my life. And looking back, you're asking me these questions. I can talk about it now, but going through it, I could never talk about it or even wanted to experience it as I was going through it. And it has taught me compassion, love. It has taught me to, I think it has taught me more things than people who go to universities or have real good jobs like you or stuff like that. And I'm thankful. One of the reasons I agreed to come here today was so that I can let people know that people feel I'm identified as a street person or a homeless person, but actually I'm just a person. Soon they're going to identify me as an artist or a poet, but I am just a person. To me, you're the lady in the red sweater, you know, and I should be the guy in the blue sweater. Not a street person, you know. To me, you're Sally. You know.
We use words. Somebody on the street's a bum 20 years ago. Or somebody is a bag man or bag lady. Or somebody is, I mean, is there a vocabulary word that means anything to you, or don't you particularly care about that?
I like that guy.
You want to be called that guy. How do you live on the streets,
Very
Randy?
difficult. There was a period for about 2 years that if I had to describe myself in one word, it would have been almost. Because I was always almost warm. Like my body temperature was always almost comfortable. But I could never really shake this feeling of being cold or chilled somewhere. And what saved me during that period, I had books that I accumulated during my travels, and I wrote in them. And when I was writing, I felt a sort of warmth or a connection to something or someone who didn't judge me. And that sort of allowed me the space to go on.
But tell me about the mechanical things of living on the street. If I walked out, I want you to think about this for yourself right now. You get up with what you have on, and you walk out of your home, your apartment, and I walk out on the street. I'm going to get cold in certain parts of the country. I have nothing. I can't run back for a sweater. I have gone. Now, night falls, where do I go?
To the place where you're the warmest. I have slept in boxcars. I have slept in a tree and had very thick branches, and it came out in like a V sort of shape. I have slept there in missions, in parking lots between cars. And most places I go, I avoid like city-run shelters.
Why?
Because of the violence that's involved. And it's difficult for me to listen to conversations, people talking with God, their mother, their son, their daughter, and everything that drove them to where we finally met at. And I don't like to be hurt. I had my skull fractured. I have a wire in my head. And I avoided the violence, and I suffered the uncomfortability of sleeping between cars, or...
Just not to go to a shelter. Okay, I'm hungry. Now what do I do?
You eat in a soup kitchen. I eat in soup kitchens if I can, if there's one. If not, I would obsess. I would walk past a restaurant or something, and someone would get up. And I would be able to know almost automatically there were 9 French fries left on that plate. And I would go in and I would get it. Or it would take days, maybe 2 or 3 days, and I would get a cup of coffee. And I was able to feel gratitude for a cup of coffee, grateful that I had a cup of coffee in 2 days.
What's the longest you went for without any food?
4.5 days. And that was without any sleep either.
All right, you're in New York City. I'm afraid. That's all right. I'll sleep down on the floor next to a car, and I'll eat from anything, garbage can, I guess, or anything.
Some of this time, though, I traveled around. I sort of bummed around. So I wasn't in New York the entire time. Like, in the winter, I spent the winter in Florida.
That's the way the rich people do it.
More or less, we lived pretty much the same. We lived pretty much the same. Only they ate the higher cut of the...
But I'm afraid. I'm afraid. Somebody's going to come.
Constantly in a state of fear.
Yeah, as I'm lying
day.
there, somebody's going to jump on me and take things. Did they do that to you?
People have taken things from me. But again, what I do, and what most people that I know who live the type of life that I live, have different things that we use to resolve or to just be able to live with the anxiety and fear. I use silence, and I can write. There are a lot of writers and painters, lots and lots and lots of writers and painters on the street.
One of the things, you're off the street now.
I'm not in the street. I have a kitchenette uptown. I pay $200 a month rent. I do day work. That's why I wasn't going to come here, because I had to take the day off from. I have a day job, and I wasn't going to come.
How long have you been doing this now? You've just...
Since September.
Okay, so you've just been off the street a very short time. One of the things Randy did when he was on the street was to paint. And I would like to show you some of his artwork, because that was another way of him expressing himself. Oh, are you good?
That last piece is something that came to mind of a woman that I have met since I have had this kitchenette where I live, who has never been on the street, but she is more homeless than I will ever be. She's elderly. I am the only person that has visited her, she says, in the last 3.5 years. And I'm going to paint that. That's called cold turkey. And because being lonely is like kicking a drug habit, the isolation and just disconnection you feel is phenomenal. And she has always had a roof and a meal her whole life. And that's why homeless is not a good term to describe what
so
we
you
go
street
through.
people, I think we could learn a lot from you. We'll be right back. We would like you to meet 2 other street people. Well, not exactly, one and one in charge. This is John Croft, and John is currently living on the streets, right? Just as Randy left a couple of months ago. And also, this is Deborah Mashibini. How'd I do?
Almost.
Almost. Give me the right one.
Mashibini.
Mashibini, who is the administrative director of the Coalition for the Homeless in New York. And Deborah had the feeling, I guess, that there was something about these people. Are you a social worker, Deborah? A psychologist? What?
No, actually, the reason I got involved with the writers and the artists is primarily, first of all, because I myself write, though it doesn't have anything to do with my position there. But for the last year, I've been editor of the Coalition's local newsletter, and there's one section in that newsletter that uses writing by folks who have experienced living in shelters or the streets. And in getting the writing in for that, I knew that there was a whole lot out there that folks had to say, and that I was just getting the tip of it. So in August, I got the idea to pull together a writing contest for folks who were or had recently.
But now, we're talking about a newsletter. That sounds so buttoned down and uptight type of life. John, how did you hear that they were going to have a contest?
No, I wasn't involved with that. I'm an artist, so I don't write. And,
all right.
I met Deb because of, well,
It was
did I meet you anyway?
After the contest, we had a reading of winning work, and there was so much positive response to that sharing, and so much good work came in. 58 writers submitted work to me for that, that I decided the next step was to try to pull together work for an anthology, and that's what I'm in the process of doing right now. And I sent out flyers again to the shelters and the soup kitchen saying that I was looking for more writing as well as visual artwork. And John came in one day with a flyer in his hand and asked, it said, for visual artists, see Deborah Mashibini. So he came in.
He said, I can paint. How long have you been on the streets?
This time, about 8 months.
What do you mean this time?
Well, well, when I was a kid, I have a cold too, so I can't
That's
smoke
okay.
well. And I remember getting left back in the kindergarten for drawing. And then I got left back in 4A for drawing because I couldn't pay attention to instructions of history or whatever they were teaching me. And so when I was about 18, 19, I lived down in Greenwich Village for a while. And that was voluntary. And I spent some time down there. And so I got the experience of living on the streets. And if you got a few hours selling a paint, you get a little room for a weekend or something.
So you were painting all this. Can we take a look at some?
For 30 years I've been doing it.
Let's take a look at some of your artwork, please. How's this done? I mean, what do you do? It looks like you're chipping away at something.
Yeah, I paint like a sculpture. Sculpts, I guess. I put paint on the canvas, and I take away what I don't want. And I just use a rag and turpentine. I don't use brushes at all.
Boy, these guys are good, Deborah. All right, now wait a minute.
So anyway, though, I wanted to say, though, this time, 8 months ago, well, about a year and a half ago, I had this fire, and I got wiped out at about 30 years of work. I only get some, what happens with the administration now, they are putting people that should be in hospitals in the streets, too. And what happened was this fellow set a couple of houses on fire, and I just happened to be unlucky to be in one of the houses. And he had done this before, a few years ago. And that's the reason I'm on the streets
So you
again.
were wiped out, and
Right.
you went to live on the streets
And I had
because of the fire.
they saved a few paintings of mine, so I went to Central Park, because I knew this little fort when I was a kid. So I went up to this little fort from 1812, and just little by little, I just lived there now. And I bury all my work. It's very safe that way.
What do you mean you bury your work?
Well, I
you
wrap it up after I'm finished. A couple of days, I wrap them up in plastic, and I bury them.
So that nobody knows where you know, it's
I
the
think I
only
feel
one.
safer that way. You know, it's to me like it's a 3D wonder world out there. There's wars, drugs, poverty, and I can't deal with that.
I'd like to know where you get your supplies if you're living on the street to do your artwork.
Well, to get food, I go to soup kitchens, and there's always pencils around someplace. Okay.
What about canvases? You did some work on
cost
canvas.
about $3 or $4, ready-made, and you can pick up $3 or $4 in New York City. There's aluminum cans, especially aluminum cans, still laying all over New York City.
So you pick up the cans and you turn them in for the 5 cents or
Right,
whatever
and,
it is.
Some of the work I lost, I got the canvas through people discarding paintings it was painted on. And
You said you bury him. Where do you bury him at?
In the park.
Let's not tell.
Well, I
Wait,
can't tell
wait.
you
Let's not tell
exactly.
anybody. They'll go and they'll dig up his artwork.
And where do you wash your clothes?
When I wash my clothes, there's a stream there. I have about 5 or 6 shirts and a couple of pair of pants, so I change every few days. And I have soap. I wash just like everybody else, you know. And where I am in Central Park, there's just smugglers and rats anyway, so nobody's up there, you know.
Don't you
They
get
don't bother
mugged?
me.
I keep worrying about the
We
two
don't
of you.
wash.
You don't wash?
lots of times there's no place to wash. There's certain times in city shelters where you can take a shower. It's usually crowded. There's a lot of homosexuals come there and a lot of wild things. So I went for a long time in my life without having washed, and I didn't smell so good.
I'd like to ask Mr. Alexis, what made you leave the streets after being there for 8 years? You just decided to try and get a job, or?
No, I decided that I had a choice, that I didn't have to submit to whatever my fare was, and I took my choice.
I want to hear the two of you talk to me about materialism in our country. I think that would be interesting. Can we take a break and come back to that?
Okay.
Welch's new squeezable jellies stop.
This is directed to Mr. Alexis. Now that you're off the streets and living in a flat, are you happy and adjusted, or do you think that you will eventually head back?
I fear sometimes that I'll go back, but I'm quite happy, and my goal is to stay home full, if there's such a thing, in the mainstream.
What about materialism? John,
What is that?
do we have too much stuff? Do we have too much stuff?
No, I don't have too much
No,
stuff.
do we have too much stuff?
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Do you ever think about
Well,
that?
yeah, I think some people use it in the wrong way, though. You know, they take care of the wrong people,
I think
too.
there's an imbalance, but I think that we're all put here to be happy. Don't feel guilty about having things, but don't feel afraid of me because you have things. Don't look at me and see yourself. Look inside yourself and you'll find what I found myself.
What can I
At
learn
the
from you?
time. What can you learn from me? You can learn to feel when you're not being touched. Learn to give when you don't have much. You can learn about God when it feels like you're damned. It is when you're lost that you can learn that you am. You can learn to be rich when you ain't got no money. Now these things seem serious, but ain't it funny?
Mr. Alexis, I'd also like to ask you a question. I'm one of these people that have trouble being quiet for 7 minutes, much less 7 months. Was that a deliberate effort, or was it something unconscious to cope? Was it a coping mechanism that you couldn't control?
I could control it. I could have spoke. I was too vulnerable, and I wanted to live. Some part of me wanted to live. That part won. And I didn't speak. That was sort of my cloak, my armor, silence.
Obviously, he is very intelligent, but don't you think it was a little dramatic to head to the streets? Could you not seek counseling or something like that to deal with your emotional problems?
More than likely, if I could have handled my emotional problems, I would have made a rational decision. But since I was so out there from the pain, I made an irrational decision.
Did any member of your family or close friend try to get any of you back into society?
Well, I feel I'm in society anyway. I'm not out of society. I just want to paint. I don't want to bother anybody.
What about the people you both met along the way?
I think that from my perception, I think I've met the most perceptive, compassionate people that exist anywhere. And I'm well read. I read a lot, and I was a very good student, skipped 9 grades in school and all of that. But the most compassionate, perceptive people in the street. But I also believe that we don't have to suffer to be that compassionate or that perceptive. It is inside of ourselves where we live. And I took the choice to do that.
I think it's important for people not to think that it's a choice to actually go on the street. I think that when people go through emotional crises, oftentimes what they aren't able to do is hold on to the things, to get up and go to work every morning and manage to pay the rent somehow or follow through with those things, and they fall apart and you end up on the street. But you don't often, it's very rare, though it does happen that people just walk, they can't deal with it anymore, and they leave. But much more often, it falls apart, and they aren't able to hold on to it. And I think that's important.
I wanted to ask, couldn't you sell your work, like artists on the left bank? And then
I do, yeah. I've sold work. I've had 23 one-man shows in the United States, in little towns. And But it's very hard to make a living at it. You know, I mean, a
for
great
me-
living at it. I have made a few dollars, you know.
What do you do with the money? Does it go very quickly, or there isn't a lot of money, John? I didn't quite
No,
understand.
it's...
23 one-man shows sounds like you're
Oh,
rolling
that's in
stuff.
30 years, and I've sold like a painting a year.
Oh. All right. So one painting a year
So
is
it's a few $100s, and that's...
Yeah, $200 a year is what you've been living
probably.
In the times that you were really uncomfortable, were you at peace even though you were uncomfortable on the street? Did you have inner peace?
Until I made a choice, I didn't have a moment of peace in my life. In the 8 years, I did not have a moment of peace in my life. When I decided to come off the street, I was still in the street, and I had to go day by day. But while I was still on the street, when I took the choice, I found a contentment and a strength within myself to move on. And I realized that I'm no different than anyone. And I can change myself, but I cannot change you. If you like what you see, it will help you to get to some things in yourself.
At times when I'm walking down the street and I come across a person, a street person, I don't know what to do. I mean, how can I help?
Someone gave me.
Deborah said that she talked to a woman who was on the street for 15 years, and when you give money to the street people, you're buying feeling better about yourself, that you helped somebody else in a very simple way.
One aspect of it.
Thank you very much for being with us today.
Some members of our audience will receive, and a promotional fee has been provided by...
Introducing...
Guests of the Sally Jessy Raphael Show stay at the beautiful Clarion Hotel, St. Louis, on the riverfront, home of the Top of the Riverfront restaurant.